The moment the elevator doors slid open, the energy inside the glossy glass-walled boardroom shifted. Everyone stood a little straighter, adjusting their suits as the company's CEO, Marissa Thornwell, stepped in with her signature red blazer and air of untouchable confidence. But all eyes drifted to the quiet man who followed behind her at a slower, steadier pace. He was older with silver hair, warm eyes, and the calm presence of someone who had seen far too much of life to ever rush through it. His name was Horace Benton, a modestly dressed black man whose gentle smile contrasted sharply with the intimidating corporate setting around him. He extended his hand politely when Marissa turned to welcome him, but instead of taking it, she looked down at his outstretched hand, then back at him, and simply folded her arms with a dismissive laugh. Her staff forced awkward smiles, unsure whether to follow her lead or hide their discomfort. The old man's hand slowly lowered, but his smile, though now dimmed, did not disappear. And in that split second, the room felt colder, as if everyone had witnessed something deeply wrong yet irreversible. If you believe kindness and second chances still matter in this world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. And tell us in the comments where are you watching from. What no one in the room knew was that Horace had spent decades building people up, investing quietly in small communities, believing in individuals when their own world had given up on them. But he had never cared for flashy suits or grand entrances, which often made people like Marissa overlook him before ever learning who he truly was. Marissa, who had fought ruthlessly to build Thornwell Analytics from a tiny startup into a multi-million-dollar firm, believed power was shown through image, dominance, and never lowering herself to anyone she didn't deem worth her time. So, when she saw Horace's lack of fancy attire, she assumed he was someone beneath her attention, unaware that he was the very investor who could save her collapsing company. Later that day, as her staff reviewed financial charts and projections, Marissa's world began to unravel piece by piece. Her biggest client had pulled out unexpectedly. Her shares were dropping and a quiet panic trembled beneath her polished surface. The same executives who once clung to her decisions now exchanged anxious looks behind her back. Thornwell Analytics, the empire she built brick by brick, was bleeding from cracks she had refused to acknowledge. And the only lifeline available was the men whose hand she had refused that morning. But Marissa's pride was a thick wall, and she convinced herself she could fix everything alone. That night, she stood in her penthouse office, staring at the glittering city lights below. Her reflection in the glass looked powerful, but her heart thudded with fear she couldn't bury anymore. She remembered the softness in Horace's eyes when she rejected his handshake, and a twinge of guilt crept in. Still, she pushed it away. She had built this company without help, she told herself. She didn't need saving. But dawn arrived with the weight of brutal truth. Another major client walked away. Investors demanded answers she didn't have. And in a board meeting filled with tense silence, one of her senior managers finally said what everyone else had been thinking. They needed Horace Benton, not just for his money, but for his strategic mind and reputation as someone who rescued companies through wisdom, not ego. The truth hit Marissa so sharply she felt breathless. Her arrogance had cost her more than an opportunity. It had cost her dignity. With trembling hands, she asked her assistant to locate Horace. The room watched her with a mix of shock and pity as she swallowed her pride for the first time in years. She rehearsed apology after apology in her mind, each one feeling like it chipped away at the version of herself she had always clung to. By afternoon, she stood at the entrance of a small community arts center, nothing like the marble floors and glass walls she was used to. Children painted freely inside, seniors chatted warmly in the courtyard, and the atmosphere felt soft, almost healing. It stunned her to see Horace there, humbly arranging donated art supplies as if the world wasn't waiting for him to decide the fate of multi-million-dollar corporations. Seeing him so grounded shook her. She approached him slowly, her pride battling her desperation until finally she forced the words out. Apologies, explanations, acknowledgments of her behavior. She expected anger or resentment, maybe even the dismissal she had once given him. Instead, Horace listened with eyes full of something she had not seen in years. Understanding. He told her that respect had nothing to do with titles or wealth and everything to do with humanity. For a moment, she felt small, but not in a way that weakened her. Rather, it humbled her, stripped away the armor she had worn for far too long. Over the next weeks, Horace agreed to advise her company, not because she begged, but because he believed no one was beyond redemption. He met with her team, guided her through difficult decisions, and taught her the value of gentleness in leadership. Slowly, the company stabilized. Clients returned. Employees who once feared her began to admire her transformation, and Marissa herself changed in ways she never expected. She stopped walking with the stiff air of superiority and started listening, learning, and appreciating people for their hearts instead of their resumes. Near the end of the story, as her company once again found its footing, Marissa stood before her team with a quiet smile, thinking about how different her life might have been if Horace had chosen not to forgive her. She realized the greatest investment he ever made wasn't financial. It was the emotional courage to believe in her when she didn't deserve it. If this story touched your heart or made you think differently about kindness, respect, or second chances, please like the video, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and share it with someone who might need this reminder today. Before we end, tell us in the comments what part of this story moved you the most. And with that reflection, Marissa understood that sometimes the strongest people are not the ones who stand tallest in the boardroom, but the ones who bend down, extend a hand, and choose grace over pride.